Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Rank. I'm your host, Troy Rank, columnist for the Denver Post. Coming to you a little early. It's a late Thursday night. Thought I was going to put the pod off and watch some Ravens Dolphins. Oh, my word. If Mike McDaniels has a job this weekend, I'll be shocked. They are terrible. If you want to get fired, have a bad game at home. But we don't have to deal with that stuff anymore. That was the drama, Broncos country, you dealt with is the quarterback going to get benched? The coach going to get fired? The coordinator going to get fired? Who's going to own the team? All that drama is out of the way. Broncos are 6-2. They lead the AFC West. People on Twitter are convinced they're not contenders, but they are, if in no other reason, by record only. And they have a chance here. You beat Houston, one of the teams that would be vying for a wild card berth if you don't win the West. You beat them, they go to 3-5. You go to 7-2. Your chances of making the playoffs go to about 87-88%. In that case, and the division title still on board with a chance to then play the Chiefs in a couple of weeks. Wow. Reminds me of the days when I was covering Peyton Manning. But why is Sean Payton? Why was he the right choice over DeMeco Ryans? What are the Broncos going to do without Pat Surtain? He's not playing. It doesn't look like Marvin Mims is going to play. And who is this tight end? He's almost my age. Marcedes Lewis? Wow. He was drafted in 2006. But he could actually play this weekend? Perhaps. We're going to get to all of it after the break. Have you been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto with us is personal. That's because it is. I've known Darby forever. Darby is a guy who became a good friend. Many of his clients become good friends with Darby. He's just that kind of guy. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. If your case goes as planned, Darby will be the one writing checks to you. So again, been hurt in a car wreck? Injured at work? Give Darby's team a call. That number, 1-833-HOGGATT, or visit the website at hoggattlaw.com. Welcome back to the Broncos Pod. I'm your host, Troy Rank from the Denver Post. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your weekend. You're probably listening to this early Friday morning. It's an exciting time for the Broncos. The college programs around here, CU's going nowhere. CSU basically quit last weekend against Wyoming. And Air Force is not really a Denver team, and they're having a good season, but they're not really a Denver team, at least in the way we cover it. And so there's so much focus on the Broncos in terms of football. Nuggets are off to a great start. Avs off to a great start. We know all that. But the Broncos have a chance to do something they haven't done since 2015. Win the AFC West. And to win the division and finally somebody unseat the Chiefs, you got to find a way to beat teams like Houston on the road. You remember a few years ago, 2023, the Broncos had a 5-game win streak, very similar to this, and then lost when inexplicably the last play of the game, Russell Wilson, last offensive play of the game for the Broncos, Russell Wilson tried to connect with Lucas Kroll to win the game. Kind of sums up some of the things that were going on with Russell at that time, that he was the option who had never caught a career pass at that point. But it didn't go well. They lost. Broncos finished 8-9. That game and that loss to the Patriots, just devastating losses. But Sean Payton, that notwithstanding, was the right choice for this job. Now, if you think back, folks, to when Sean Payton was hired, if you remember that, and I've done pods on it, it was a fascinating coaching search. But the original choice was Jim Harbaugh. The Walton Penner family had connections to him through Stanford, through mutual connections. They wanted Harbaugh. Harbaugh did not want to leave Michigan. Turned out to be the right choice. He stayed, won a national championship. Then they interviewed Payton. Looked like he was number one. And then they got to DeMeco Ryans, who at that point was the rising star as the San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator. And by all accounts, in my reporting at that time, he moved to the front of the pack. They were just so impressed by his interview. But a couple of things were at work here. He wasn't prepared to make them make an offer he couldn't refuse. They weren't going to keep him from leaving the building, if you will. He was always going to interview in Houston. It's where he played. He became a star there as a linebacker. His wife loved it there. Family loved it there. It was really, as long as Houston made what would be a competitive offer, the Broncos weren't getting DeMeco Ryans. They realized that when he said after the interview with them, I'm still going to interview with Houston, then at that point, Sean Payton becomes the primary focus, and they hire Sean Payton. And so you can say, He was their third choice. It's sometimes in life you end up with your second or third choice, and it ends up being the best choice. And that was the case with this. DeMeco Ryans has been terrific for Houston. I'm not criticizing him. I did a column on this saying, thank you, DeMeco Ryans, for going to Houston because Sean Payton's the guy the Broncos needed. And here's why. The last three coaches prior to Payton were first-time coaches. This job is not a job for training wheels. Vance Joseph failed, Vic Fangio failed, and Nathaniel Hackett all failed. All first-time coaches. DeMeco Ryans, to me, would have come in, and I talked with DJ Jones about this. He loves him. He played for him in San Francisco, thinks he would have done fine here. I don't think he would have because of a couple of reasons. First-time head coach, walking into the Russell Wilson fiasco. Would he have had the guts to cut Wilson as Sean Payton did? I highly doubt it. My guess is he would have switched out coordinators, tried to make it work. They would have been incrementally better, and then you're just delaying the inevitable of addressing the quarterback position. Not unlike with Hackett, if they had gotten Aaron Rodgers. You play a little better, you get to 8-9, 9-8, but you're putting off the decision that changes the franchises, which is identifying a young franchise quarterback. Those are the teams that are in the best position to win. So I saw Ryans at basically as Vic Fangio with charisma bypass surgery. Everyone loves Ryans, it feels like, in the NFL. He's a terrific coach and a good fit in Houston. The reason I didn't think it would work here is because I don't know that he would have been able to address the quarterback position, had the guts to cut Wilson, and then had the foresight to identify Bo Nix as this guy. Already in Houston, DeMeco Ryans, they have a porous offensive line, and C.J. Stroud is not approaching the success he had as a rookie, in large part because of injuries, and their offensive line has had issues. Payton made it priority number one when he took this job. O-line, D-line, reinforce it. The first few signings within hours were Ben Powers, Mike McGlinchey, Zach Allen. And now the Broncos are the first team in modern football, NFL era, Super Bowl era, through 8 games to allow fewer than 10 sacks and have more than 35 sacks. If you win at the point of attack, you can win in any era. And when you look at Ryans, they didn't emphasize that, and now they're paying the price for that. They got off to a terrible start, and Stroud's not progressing. He's getting sacked. I think it's like 105 sacks. He's averaging almost 2 sacks a game in his career compared to Nix, who almost never gets sacked. These things are important. The other thing is, again, Stroud's on his second offensive coordinator. You know how many coordinators Bo Nix has had? 1. Sean Payton you would see Dick Monfort sell the Rockies before Sean Payton gives up play calling. He's going to be the coordinator as long as he's the head coach. And right now, that could be 3, 4, 5 more years. That is great news for the development of Bo Nix. And that's why I think it was the perfect Payton needs a blue blood team. He needs to be under the bright lights. He didn't do this great the first year, but handling the media, and he's in the no F's version of his career. He deals with the Denver media way better starting in year 2 than year 1 because there's way more of us. He doesn't care about the criticism. Once in a while, he and I have gotten into our own spats, but he forgets it. He answers questions at the podium. Outside of a few injury stuff, he's always provides really good answers at the podium regarding strategy and player usage and play calling. He doesn't, and I saw DeMeco Ryans this week chide reporters for what he deemed negative coverage. If he had done that in Denver, it would have been the talk of radio for the entire week of this guy doesn't get it. He doesn't understand this pressure here, the expectations, and is he ready for it? Can he handle this job? Payton doesn't care what people think for the most part. He'll fight because of his ego, but he's not going to tell and lecture the media about negative coverage. I guarantee you that. He doesn't care enough about us in that regard. And he's built for the bright lights of it, and he's built for a team that needed to get the quarterback and coach relationship and coordinator thing right. So with Houston fans, when you're going at me and say, oh, you didn't want DeMeco Ryans. I like DeMeco Ryans. I'm just saying, in this case, the Broncos needed a veteran coach. And I'll give you number one reason why. Since 1995, every coach that succeeded for the Broncos had prior head coaching experience. Mike Shanahan, 2 Super Bowls. With the Raiders, he had experience. John Fox led them to a Super Bowl, division titles. previous head coaching experience in Carolina. Gary Kubiak led them to the Super Bowl 50 title, had previous coaching experience in Houston, and now Sean Payton in New Orleans. He's one of the winningest coaches of all time. It's just the nature of this beast, the timing of it. They could not deal with another first-time head coach. And it doesn't matter if it was DeMeco Ryans or Kenny Dillingham, if it was his first job in the NFL. They couldn't do it again. They needed a guy who's been there. And in the case of Payton, a culture setter, a guy that can bring swag and attitude, all those types of things. That's what made him the right choice. And it's what made the right choice for Ryans in Houston. And even Harbaugh. I think they all ended up where they were supposed to end up. But the Broncos, I'm telling you, would not be in this position right now if they had hired a first-time head coach. Because there's no way you're going to convince me that a first-time head coach is going to go to ownership and tell them to eat $85 million on the cap. Payton, I know when he got hired, said, I'm willing to give Russell a year, and if I'm not comfortable, we better be prepared to move on. That was all kind of part of the deal. No way in hell a first-year head coach is telling ownership that in an interview. It's just not happening. And if you think it is, you're naive. So it all worked out. Everyone ended up where they're supposed to be. And now can Sean Payton even the score against Ryans, who beat him in 2023? I don't know about that. But let's hear from a couple of players on why Payton fits, what makes it work. Let's hear from Mike McGlinchey, one of the first guys he signed after Payton was hired, first guys he signed in free agency, and Nick Bonitto, who's still in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Let's hear from Mike McGlinchey and Nick Bonitto.
Certainly there's a level of confidence, obviously, that he brings, and the experience that he has, and the success that he's had in this league, that also allows everybody else to buy what he's selling, right? And so it's hard for a coach to stand up there and not have a track record and say this is how we're going to do things, and then things don't go the way that you plan to do it. And I think his toughness, his leadership, on top of obviously the football acumen, but the culture change all started because he believes wholeheartedly in what he's teaching and what he's selling, and we all followed.
Because it doesn't seem like it's ever been about competing with him. It's about winning. Do you feel that in the building with him?
Well, that's the only way that anybody ever measures success in this league, right? It's not how good did you compete. It's a yes or no question. Did you win or lose the ball game? And he's won a lot of them, and so we're fortunate to be able to play for him. It was the deciding factor for me when I was coming here was to play for a coach like Sean Payton. It's a dream come true as a player. And to be able to have, that experience leading us has obviously worked, and why we're heading the direction that we're heading.
Last thing, he does say things that are unusual for a coach. Like we wanted to keep their defense ranked last. He'll go back and forth with another player. Do you guys like that? Do you appreciate your coaches out there a little bit?
I think so. I do. I think it's awesome. It's that level of confidence that you want out of your head coach, right? Like if he doesn't have that confidence, then how can anybody else in this building have that confidence? You know what I mean? So whether it's polite or not, it's not for me to decide. I'm on his team and I love it. So he can do whatever he wants to do as long as we keep winning ball games.
Right.
Yeah.
40-point game, a little bit of a shootout last Sunday, but you had the slobber knocker, the 13-11 game with the Jets. I mean, there's not a style of game that you guys haven't been able to win so far this year, really.
Yeah, I mean, and that just shows the type of team that we have. I mean, we know that adversity is going to hit every Sunday. Just finding different ways to win is the main thing, and those are the signs of a good team is when you can do stuff like that and, being able to still find ways to win even when you don't play your best.
Like, where does that come from, that ability to win those types of games?
I think it's just a accumulation of these last couple of years, man. I mean, we've kept the same, nucleus here, and, we've had a lot of experiences, going into big games and winning them, and, even our first year, finding ways to lose those games. And, now I feel like that experience is catching up to us where we, no matter what, we're finding ways to win these games.
How much of a role does Sean play in that, in creating that culture of winning? Like, we're not here to compete. It's a yes or no question, you win or not.
Yeah.
Do you feel that from him in the building?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and he says it all the time, and Joe Vitt, that, they specifically handpicked this team to to where we want to be right now. You know, it's been in the process for years now, and we got it to where we want to be, but we're not there yet. You know, but you know, we got guys in the locker room who know how to win and you know want to win. So it's exciting to see for sure.
Yeah, you heard it, folks. Welcome back. I'm Troy Rink from the Denver Post. Thank you so much for listening to the pod, Broncos Country. You're the best. Wherever you're listening, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support. You heard it from Mike there. When you do football, the question is, did you win or lose? It's not about competing. No Capri Sun. There's no orange slices. Win or lose. And Payton gives this team swagger. He gives them confidence, and he has an edge to him. He's cocky. He's arrogant. But when you're winning, players feed off this. You heard it from McGlinchey there. You heard it from Bonitto, how these guys feel special, handpicked. There's nothing about them being on the roster that's a coincidence. And that's all creating this family, a little bit of us against them, but this family environment that this team can be the one that finally kind of turns the corner, not only gets to the playoffs, wins the playoff game, shows the NFL the Broncos are relevant again. But make no mistake, this is a tough game. This is a throwdown, sawdust, take the kind of game that, you know, if you look back on, can be the difference between winning a division title and slipping in as a wild card. How are the Broncos going to deal with the Texans without their top defensive player, the reigning defensive player of the year, Pat Surtain? I'm going to tell you about it after the break. When you face curveballs from family challenges, divorce, legal separation, child support, alimony, custody, you need a lawyer who understands the human dynamics, the courtroom, and is willing to fight for your rights. You need Ted Shih. He's a graduate of Cal Berkeley Law. Ted brings 40 years of courtroom and 20 years of family law experience to your corner. Ted's been a social worker, a police detective, but first and foremost, a trial lawyer. He's tried cases across Colorado and the country. Martindale Hubbell ranks Ted among the top lawyers in the U.S. You want an expert to navigate your challenge? Call Ted. Ted's passion is putting you first. Ted will work to settle your case. He's not afraid to go toe-to-toe in a trial. Ted can be reached at theoshih@aol.com. That's TheoShih@AOL.com. Or give him a call. Write this down, 303-475-2981. 303-475-2981. Ted promises to respond to your concerns within 24 hours, 365 days a year. Well, the Broncos are coming off just absolutely boxing the ears of the Cowboys. Their offense is back in the top 10. They're a top 10 running team. They're finally gaining traction. The offense is carrying its water finally, catching up to a defense. You should feel good about this game, except for the fact no Pat Surtain, out with this left shoulder injury that's going to probably keep him out at least 3 games. Hopefully he can come back that 4th game because there's a bye in there, come back for that Commanders game right after Thanksgiving. Surtain puts a do not disturb sign on one side of the field. He changes the way teams approach you. How are you going to live and succeed without him? So when you look at that challenge with 2 young corners, Abrams Drain in his 2nd year, Jahdae Barron, a rookie. Listen, I've been as critical as anyone of them taking a cornerback in the 1st round, but they could turn around and make me bite my tongue because they need Barron now. They absolutely need him now, and they need him to play well, but even more, they need Drain to play well, especially if Nico Collins ends up playing in this game. But the reality is there's one way specifically to make life easier without Surtain, and it is just to get pressure. Pressure, pressure, pressure. When you look at Zach Allen, JJ, when you look at Nick Bonitto, he's been near the league leader in sacks and pressures and quarterback hits all year. Jonathan Cooper, at one point, was AFC Player of the Week. And you've got DJ Jones and John Franklin Myers. If the Broncos are going to win this game, they have to win it with pressure up front. The way to make coverage better is to pressure the quarterback. The better the pressure, the better the coverage. They work in concert. And that would take pressure off Abrams Drain. That would take pressure off of Jahdae Barron. And he would take pressure off of Riley Moss, who finally might not get targeted as much. But the reality is it has to come from those 4. Vance Joseph talked about on Thursday how while a lot of people think the secret is to blitz young quarterbacks, he thinks it's the opposite. Play more zone, and I do think they're going to play more shell coverage in zone because nobody plays man like the Broncos do. That's easy to do when Surtain's one of the guys playing man. That's not fair to ask Chris Abrams-Drain to be in man, 50, 60% of the time. So look for him to play more zone, because Vance Joseph said on Thursday in his presser, he likes the idea of confusing a young quarterback, forcing him to go through his reads and his progressions, and then that allows pressure to get there that way. I don't disagree. I mean, Vance, he's going to dial it up with runners, whether it's Sonad or Greenlaw or Singleton. They're not going to not blitz. But heavy blitzing, I agree with him, only gets the ball out sooner for a quarterback like Stroud and creates more problems with run after catch for corners that are playing way more than they're used to playing. So look for the Broncos to play more zone, shell coverage, and they've got to get pressure up front with those four. And the final thing of how do you cover for Surtain? You get back a player in Dre Greenlaw who should have been on paper one of your best players this season. He's played one game. He missed the first, 7 games with first 6 games with that quad issue that just he hurt it in April, then it was hurt again, had multiple setbacks in the summer. And obviously they misjudged it, or he should have gone on IR. He didn't. He comes back and plays well against the Giants. And then at that point, at the end of that game, he gets into it with that official, Brad Allen, who had a terrible day. There needs to be more transparency and consequences for bad officials. Because then I turn around and watch and see him in a primetime game on Sunday night. But you can't yell at the official. You can't put yourself in that position. Should have been a fine or suspension. I don't know what he said. But the reality is you can't put yourself in that position after you've missed that many games. His body has betrayed him. Then he let his teammates down. And he acknowledged as much on Thursday that he's got to be better. He can't put himself in that position. I love that type of accountability. That is one of the reasons they signed him, is he's that type of leader. But they need him to be electric on the field, to, basically play with, violence, play in controlled violence, obviously within the rules, to just have people feel his presence. Because it only takes one strip sack on a blitz by Greenlaw that could win this game. Because it's going to be, in my estimation, a low-scoring game. Houston's defense is for real. Under Ryans, no surprise. But this is a beatable team because their offense is not great. They're very pedestrian offensively. So if the Broncos are just a little better than average offensively and take care of the ball, and then you rely on your defense to get a strip sack or a turnover, that's how you win a close game. You walk them off, you win with a field goal, whatever it is. And the other thing is you got to play clean on special teams. And Mims being out gives me pause, because last thing you need is a muff punt or a muff kick in a game that's going to be probably decided by a field goal. I mean, Houston's, I think, a 1.5-point favorite, which means it's really a pick 'em because they're at home. When you get 1.5, you get less than 3 at home is essentially a pick 'em game. But special teams, and Darren Rizzi has not exactly draped himself in glory this year. That's been a problem. So the 2 ways you cover with Surtain is 3 specifically: pressure by 4, play more zone, and Dre Greenlaw. You thought we forgot about Dre? They need the real Dre Greenlaw to show up and start showing out, because he is that good, folks. But you got to see it. Can't keep talking about it. You got to be about it. And this would be a hell of a way for Greenlaw to kind of introduce himself to Broncos country. He had 6 tackles and 21 snaps against the Giants. I would think he's going to double those snaps against the Texans, get around 40, 45 snaps. I want to see Greenlaw have 8 tackles, maybe a sack, a couple quarterback hits. That's the kind of line that could change this game. And there could be one more X factor: a blocking tight end. This is a crazy story. Nate Atkins, who Sean Payton loves, and most people don't know who he is, played at South Carolina. Dad was a coach. And they have a way of finding these kind of gems, these guys that, not drafted type stuff. And Atkins, he'd always get a few plays dialed up for him, but he's a great blocker. Well, he's hurt. He's hurt. He hurt his knee. He's out. And Troutman has not exactly been a great blocker this year. He knows the offense through and through. We all know that. But he's had issues with holding. He's had penalties, whatever. So they bring in on their practice squad Marcedes Lewis. And if you feel like that name sounds familiar, it does if you've been following football the last 2 decades. He was drafted in 2006. This would be his 20th NFL season. Here's a crazy thing to think about. He was drafted 28th overall, the first round out of UCLA. John Embry, the former CU coach and CU player, was kind of the guy that got him on the right track to get him to the NFL. He's drafted 28th. DeMeco Ryans, the head coach of the Texans, was drafted 5 spots after him by Houston. And Ryans has been retired for 10 years. I mean, what a career. And he's never had surgery. At 41, in his 20th season in the NFL, never had a surgery. And so it's an incredible story. Why would they want him? He's a blocking tight end. He never was early in his career. He transitioned to that. And he's basically, that's all he's been with the Bears and Packers these last few years. He kept himself in shape through like MMA training. His body, kept his mind and body right, open to the right opportunity. And Denver called. He had just visited Joshua Tree, do like meditation, get his priorities right. He gets back to the LA area, sees a 303 area code. Next thing you know, he's on a plane to Denver. He's signed to the practice squad. I mean, the idea of him playing 12 snaps could be. We'll see. He looks fine at practice. You would never guess that he's 41 years old, but still, you got to see. But I wouldn't, if he plays, it would not shock me if it's 10 snaps and that there's a sneaky pass play in there for him. That would be just like Sean Payton to do something like that. But what did Marcedes Lewis say about it? Why Denver? Why now? What has he been able to do to stick around for 20 years? Holy heck. Let's hear from the new tight end for the Broncos, Marcedes Lewis.
Like every maybe like 6 weeks, just to relax and kind of be intentional about, just my life going forward. And obviously I was in a position of I could sign to potentially get a 20th season, or it would be time now to whatever I want to do after that. And so what I will say is I was at peace the whole entire time, and it did feel good to get the call. I happened to be in the sauna at the time, and they were like, hey, I saw a number pop up on my phone. It was a Denver number. Obviously, I don't have it saved, so I didn't answer it first. I thought it was spam. And then I got another call, and then, GM left a message. I called him back. He's like, can you hop on a plane tonight? I was like, of course, like, I'm there. So I probably got here around like 11:30 p.m., got to the hotel, did my workout, physical, and everything like that, and it happened that fast within a day.
How important is it to not just, the attractiveness of not just to be able to play the game again, but to play for a team that could do something special?
No, it's big time. Like whenever people would ask me, like, are you going to try to get a 20th season? Like, how do you feel? For me, and when I say I was just at peace, I just was in a state of allowing, and I've always been in that state of just never forcing or resisting what's meant to be, and to be able to have an opportunity to not only just compete, but continue to add value to an already talented roster and doing some great things this year. And so, especially me, when you're looking down the end of the barrel, that's pretty ideal. So I'm definitely in gratitude at the moment, and looking forward to, bringing what I can to help continue to push this thing forward.
What can you bring? What's left?
I mean, go pull up my film. I'm, obviously when I first started out, it was more so catching the ball and doing all that. I was able to, do some good things in Jacksonville, and then went to Green Bay. It was a little mixed bag of things, and now, I'm a point of contact blocker. I take that very serious, and obviously the leadership and leading from the front, like I always have in my career, and just knowing the moment, and making sure that, like, as easy as it's here today, it could be gone tomorrow. And I live my life like I'm on a one-day contract. If I don't give my absolute best or whatever it is I'm doing that day, I can't renew my contract, and that's for myself, and that's a promise that I've made to myself. And so that's how I lead, and I transmute that energy into positive things, and I rub off on people, and it's one of my superpowers.
For you, in your career, what was that point where you kind of realized, okay, I've got to remake myself as a blocker, and then kind of evolving into the tight end that you've become the last few years?
I'll tell you a quick little story. So John Embry, he coaches tight ends with Miami. He coached Tony Gonzalez, Daniel Graham, Kittle for a bit when he was in San Francisco. He's like my step pops. He coached me at UCLA, and he still watches my film and everything now. And when I got to UCLA, I was more of a raw athlete doing all this stuff in the pass game, and hadn't really sunk my teeth into the run game yet as a sophomore in college. And he pulled me aside and was like, hey, like, there's a lot of people that can catch the ball and run and do all of that. You want to play for a long time, you need to learn how to get your nose dirty. He was like, you want to be the best? It's about being an all-around tight end. He was like, you want to play for a while? When you slow down, you'll still be able to block because your technique is really good. And fast forward, I get to Jacksonville, my rookie year there, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Oklahoma drill.
Oh yeah.
So that was my first NFL Oklahoma drill, and it was Fred Taylor behind me and Maurice Jones-Drew. And, I went up, I had 3 reps, pancaked the first 2 guys, moved the 3rd guy out the way. Freddie T runs up to me, jumps on my neck, and he just called me Slim because I was always this height, but I didn't have the mass that I do. And he was like, hey, Slim, you keep blocking like that, you're going to be playing for a long time. He texted me this morning. He was like, man, you my hero, bro. I can't believe you're doing this. I'm like, remember the conversation that we had? That meant a lot to me, and that's something that I carry every day.
Well, welcome back. Troy Rink here from the Denver Post. As you can see, this guy's he could be a coach right now. He's a leader. He makes people around him better. So you could see, like, it's not just you're bringing in a blocking tight end. They put his locker, folks, right next to Bo Nix. I can't believe that was an accident. This guy gets it. He'd be a coach on the field. And can you get 8-10 snaps out of him, quality snaps in the run game? I mean, maybe. I mean, I understand why they're doing it. But it's a fascinating roll of the dice. I still think the Broncos are going to make a trade, maybe for a receiver. They are definitely listening and considering considering making a move for another offensive player, whether it's the kid from the Saints, the receiver, or just a receiver to add. And I think that's not a bad idea. Breece Hall from the Jets wouldn't be the worst idea. I doubt they would do that because how much they love Harvey. And Dobbins has been great. It's just to protect himself. The idea of adding a receiver, a veteran, is in case something where, Cortland Sutton would have to miss a game or 2 with a hamstring. You'd like to have another veteran. And in this case, don't be surprised if by Tuesday's deadline, Broncos add another player. But for now, it doesn't look like a tight end. It looks like they're going to see if Marcedes Lewis can be the answer as a blocking tight end. But, folks, it should be a fascinating game. It's going to be, again, the game that you throw sawdust down. You got to get the bare knuckles out. It's going to be low scoring. 2 great defenses. The defense the team that wins the turnover battle is going to win this game. And if that's 1 turnover to 0, 2 to 1, that's who's going to win. I could say run the ball, but it's an equal game on so many ways. The defense is going to decide it, and it's going to have to come down to a strip sack, pick, something along those lines so Broncos can win a close game. And that's how I have them winning. I have them winning like 19-16, that type of game, which would then put them in a position to beat the Raiders on Thursday night. And wow, would that be a huge game against the Chiefs that following Sunday. That would be just absolutely the biggest game since the 2015 season. But enjoy it, Broncos country. It's nice to be talking about a contender, debating are they a contender or not? That's way better than are they the worst team in the league? Do they have the worst coach? And why does their quarterback look like he's never played football before? This is a way more fun conversation. And it wouldn't be possible without my great sponsors, Darby Hoggatt of Hoggatt Injury Law, Ted Shih's Family Law Practice, and, of course, Nate Lundy and Danny Bailey of Mile High Sports. They make the pod possible, provide the platform, all the great graphics. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness, that starts with me. Go out there and have a great day.